In this particular video, I'm going to discuss how I go around teaching Punnett squares, in particular with EL learners, which require a lot of visual learning. Specifically, what I'm going to address is the use of the PowerPoint that I created through for the genetics portion of the lesson. So it's a file that is you're able to download. So just by the look of it, there's a use of a lot of visuals for a lot of colors, for example, smaller variation in text. In terms of traits, making sure that you have examples of pictures, and particularly with some of these traits for students have never heard of. For example, widow's peak is one that a lot of students have no idea, or for example, using the bent finger. Making sure your color code, important words that stand out is very important as well. Um, in terms of, for example, when we're talking about Gregor Mendel, uh, having this visual is something very important. Being able to pause and explain what's occurring is always very important. Not so much text heavy, but more visual, using pictures that students can easily grapple with and interact with. Um, Using pictures that they're familiar with. For example, having two parents and that being the answer of why we have two genes is always a good use of this. One of the particular slides that I felt have always been very useful has been this. How to teach this dominant versus recessive has always been something that I grappled with, and what better than use some of their cartoons that they are familiar with. So anything you think of Incredible Hulk, you think of someone who dominates, who's very dominant, who would probably win a fight, I would say 9 out of 10 times. And then you have little SpongeBob, which kids adore, who doesn't look like he would be that dominant, and he's recessive. Using these two cartoons, things that they're familiar with, all students, um, helps in terms of the relationship between dominant and recessive. That can be seen here, where you have two particular Incredible Hulks. Therefore, who wins in that argument? Well, Incredible Hulk. Incredible Hulk wants the plant to be tall, who therefore is tall. In this relationship, you have two SpongeBobs, and what are you gonna get? They both say sure, so not a big deal. But the third one, this is the dominant versus recessive. Who wins here? Is it the dominant or the short? And in this case, a lot of students want to say, well, it'll be medium, but we all know that dominant supersedes. How do I make this visible? I make this visible by making sure that understanding that the recessive allele is always there. It's not disappearing. The only difference is that the SpongeBob, that the Incredible Hulk is on top of it. Using formative assessments, using people that they're familiar with, is always something very important, very true. Right, genotype versus phenotype, showing visuals again. And then in this particular two slides, what I do is I'll just go around robin all over and have students explain if this is an example of phenotype or genotype all the way through, and in this case, homozygous. So in terms of genetics, using visuals, interactive presentations has always been a great way of teaching vocabulary, along with obviously other strategies.